Former Florida Gators quarterback, NFL quarterback, and NFL head coach. Coach K. Stevenson has a resume second to none, and now he's sharing his insider information with you. Talk Football with Coach K starts right now on ESPN Pensacola.
Welcome into Talk Football with Coach K. JP here with you alongside former NFL coach K. Stevenson. I know Coach is going to be joining us here shortly, trying to get everything shored up. Remember, we're also doing our social distancing here at ESPN Pensacola, along with Cat Country and News Radio. Listen, I know that this is a tough time for everybody. Listen, everyone out there, we hope you're staying safe, washing your hands, doing what you're supposed to do. Everybody do your part, because remember, we're all in this together. I do want to say a shout out to our first responders and healthcare workers. We know they're working tirelessly right now. It's a tough time, to say the least. But, listen, we're talking football with you, and the one thing I want to remember is in all this, with the sports being gone right now, it's tough times. But is it really? That's where I want to step back for people that's like, oh, this is horrible. Well, if it's as bad as it gets, as your sports gets taken away for a little while, then this is going to be okay. I mean, for people that are older, you've been through so many much worse things. For me personally, this is the first time I believe that, well, I've been uncomfortable, and I don't mean that in a bad way, but in a way that is, listen, it's different. So for people that haven't gone through tragic times or anything like that, just bear with them. Everybody, we're going to get through this. We're going to be fine. And listen, if you can help somebody out, safely, of course, then help them out. Respect, the elderly right now is going through it. They're at a higher risk. I know people younger are getting it, but they're at a higher risk for a fatality. Just be there for them, help them out any way we can, whether it's going and getting some groceries for them or whatever they need. That's the one thing. We live in the greatest country. I don't want to stand on a pedestal here and preach, but we do live in the greatest country in the world, and let's act like it. If they take our sports away for a little while, we're going to be okay. I know Coach is working on joining us right now, but there's a couple things that comes to note for today's show. We're going to have a special guest, Vic Carucci. This is a guy, listen, he is special. I know he's a great friend of Coach's. He's been on the show before. He's coming on at 12:15. Covers the Bills and the NFL for news. He's got over 4 decades of experience as a pro football writer and a broadcaster. He's also co-host for Sirius XM NFL Radio, and he's a Pro Football Hall of Fame selector too. So this is a pretty important guy, which I think right now it's important with everything going on. I mean, we look free agency just flying. Everything's changing. Cam Newton today, we'll get into that. It seems that he's going to be released by the Carolina Panthers. This is another thing here. It's a sad day right now for, well, the Dallas Cowboys. I know the Dallas Cowboys, Coach, you there with us?
Yes, I am.
Awesome. Well, Coach, how are you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing well. Good to hear you.
Awesome. Well, Coach, of course, talking about the Dallas Cowboys right now, Travis Frederick, the center, retiring from the NFL, getting into that a little bit. Coach, he, of course, suffers from Guillain-Barré syndrome. This is interesting. This is a guy who has a wife, 2 kids. This is grown man stuff, for people that are like, oh, well, he's only 29. Well, let me explain the Guillain-Barré syndrome here. It's a rare disorder that attacks the immune system and takes away basic motor skills. Frederick, in 2018, when he had to step away, he had to learn how to walk again, lift weights, learn how to block defenders, running at full speed, making line protection calls. Nothing was easy for him. Everything was hard. And he even came out and said, listen, just doing a push-up was hard. So, Coach, one thing I talk about this, with Travis Frederick being gone in 2018, the line dropped to almost 20th in the league. And they still had some good guys around him. Let's remember that line was really good. They dropped to almost 20th in the league. That's around the Carolina Panthers, Detroit Lions, and Washington Redskins, to give people an idea. With him, they are a top 3 offensive line. And to give you another fact here, if you're wondering, well, how does that output change here? In 2018, Dak Prescott was sacked 56 times with Frederick on his offensive line at center, a career low 23. Coach, how impactful is Travis Frederick retiring to the Dallas Cowboys right now?
It's a big problem. There's no doubt about that. If you look at the drop off, the year he didn't play, it's almost amazing. It gives you a great example of what he meant to that football team. But you have to remember now what a center does, especially in the National Football League, is crucial to the success of that football team. You cannot be a good protection team, pass protection. Half of your runs depend on late minute calls at the line of scrimmage, and just so much depends on him after you break the huddle and get to the huddle, get to the line of scrimmage.
Coach, when you look at what Dallas is going through right now, and I think it's it's so important because if anything, Dak Prescott's been able to lean on this offensive line. Guys like Ezekiel Elliott, they've been able to lean on this offensive line. This offensive line has paved the way, and that's where I think the success of these guys, the success of Dak Prescott. Listen, let's remember, if you have a great offensive line, well, just about anybody can play great behind them. But for Dallas, they have a steamroll offensive line. So when you look at it for Dak Prescott this year, and of course, we know that right now, of course, he has the exclusive rights tag to him, which means they have till July to get a deal done here. This impacts Dak Prescott more than anybody because for Dak Prescott, he's been behind that offensive line, not taking the credit away from him, but how much credit does Dak Prescott deserve playing behind that offensive line last year?
Well, certainly there's a degree of competence there on his part. He's a good quarterback, big guy, can move around, so people bounce off him, and he can make people miss and get some yardage with his legs. So he's that type quarterback that can withstand quite a bit. But even at that, you can't be sacked the number of times that he was and hits that he takes. It bounces up, and it'll certainly cut your career short.
Coach, I want to move on to another big thing here. I know this is a guy that is he has no lack of. I think he believes everybody hangs on his every word here. Terry Bradshaw. Now, Terry Bradshaw questioned Tom Brady's decision to go to Tampa. We're going to listen to a clip here and let you hear the live interview.
20 years, Brady did not want to stop playing, and he just needed to get someplace else to get away from whatever it is, for whatever reason, that particular coach.
Well, I can certainly understand getting away from something that I think is obvious now, is that the pressure that Belichick probably puts on his football team and the pressure that Brady puts on himself to excel, the two of those finally collide. I happen to believe that working for Bill Belichick would have been a great honor. But when you're through, because I think that's exhausting. That kind of commitment to excellence is exhausting. It's mentally exhausting. So perhaps Tom wants to get out from under that kind of pressure and be free and go down to Florida in the warm weather and show the world how great he is. How great he really is without Belichick. I know Belichick can win without Brady. I don't know that Brady can win without Belichick. So now we have the Eagles, and I just don't understand for the life of me why he would leave New England and move to another football team, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We know the coach in Tampa Bay isn't there for very long. That's why he didn't re-sign Jameis. That's probably why they're not going to draft a quarterback, because he doesn't want to have to train a young quarterback, because he's not going to be there long enough. So bringing in Brady makes all the sense in the world. He's got the greatest quarterback with the world titles coming in, and so that makes that offense, which is so good, even better for him. But he better protect him. He better protect it, and he better not make him hold that football very long, because that's not his strength, holding that ball and playing football from the pocket.
Coach, when you hear Terry Bradshaw right there, I mean, there's some statements that, Coach, I know that this seems kind of to almost criticize Tom of why would he want to continue on. Coach, you've played at the highest level. I mean, I don't know what we make of this at this point. It's almost like Terry believes, his statement is, the truth. I hate to say, I'm trying to think of the best way to put it, Coach. I'm not sure if Coach is with us right now. Believe me, he went off. But nonetheless, I think, listen, with Terry Bradshaw, I get what he's saying. But for Tom Brady and anybody that's competed, I mean, listen, I'm washed up. I played in college a little bit, enjoyed my time there. There was a time where I realized, look, even at 23, 24 years old, there were guys that were younger than me that were, in their prime. And it was interesting going to, even major league tryouts and things like that. Going there and seeing these guys that are 18 years old that are just so much better than you. You hate to give it up. And Tom Brady is a guy who is the ultimate competitor. I don't care if Tom Brady wants to play to 45 years old. This is a guy that when I look at him, it's so tough to say to Tom Brady, like, what do you think you're doing? Like, you've already done everything you want to do here. You've already proven yourself. You don't have to go prove yourself. I think for Tom Brady, there is a little bit of truth in what he's saying. I don't think that necessarily maybe there's some ego in it, but it's a competitor's ego of he wants to prove because he's been under Bill Belichick so long, he wants to prove to people, listen, I can do this too. You know, you appreciate what Belichick and Kraft and all those guys have done, but at the same time, I want to prove to people that I can do this on my own. And that's where I think it's interesting. Coach, I think with Tom Brady here and hearing Terry Bradshaw and his comments, I get it, but at the same time, I think it's more Tom Brady. He's the ultimate competitor here. I think this has really nothing to do with, wanting to, I guess, prove anything else other than, look, I know Bill Belichick, we had a great run at it, but I don't think it matters at this point. I think he just wants to go win another Super Bowl. I think we lost Coach again. Listen, I want to remind people here, Coach is at his home right now using another system to talk to us. It's tough. We're all social distancing here, and sometimes things don't work out. All that technology we have doesn't work correctly. I know he's getting it figured out, but this is a tough time. I think for Tom Brady, if you're a Tampa Bay fan, this is perfect timing for you. You have an offense that is, well, it's one of the best, but you haven't really been able to see that as much just because of Jameis Winston throwing the interceptions and how many games came down to a possession last year where Jameis couldn't finish it off. He finished it off for the other team. And you hate that. And I think Jameis Winston, I want to make it clear, I think that quarterback, he's a talented quarterback. I don't know if maybe people say he has poor decision-making. Well, I think part of it, too, is overconfidence. I think he believes, and look, we watched him do it in college, slinging the ball all over the yard, things like that. I think that's more of what it's happened and transpired in Tampa, and I think part of it, too, is the offensive line has hindered him a little bit. Now, that's something that's got to get figured out. We know that. But for Tom Brady, I think in Tampa, this is awesome. I know that, Jameis is probably not going to be a backup. He may not have much of a choice right now. Coach made a comment yesterday saying, listen, for Jameis, I don't think that he's the type of guy that's going to hang around. I think he's going to want to go his separate ways, even if he's a backup somewhere else. And I think with what's been said from Bruce Arians, kind of blaming Jameis, I don't think it's set well with him. So I agree. I think it's almost probably a time for moving on now. One thing I want to mention today as well, Cam Newton, it seems that, the Panthers are saying goodbye. We kind of figured this was happening. Teddy Bridgewater coming in, signing with the Panthers. It was interesting, though, Kyle Allen, and we'll get into that, going to the Redskins. We have so much to talk about. We also have Vic Carucci that's supposed to join us here in just a few minutes. But this is interesting here. I think with Cam Newton being released, where does Cam go? Now you've got two quarterbacks that have went out and played for a while that can play at a high level. I think personally Cam Newton is a better quarterback when he's healthy. He is very productive. He's proven that. But it's a matter of, how healthy can he stay? Because this is a guy that wants to continue to move around. He is not just a sit back in the pocket type of quarterback. It's going to be really interesting to see how this plays out because, rumors are that they're saying the Chargers need to go after this guy, but the Chargers have said they're not going to sign a veteran quarterback. They're going to stick with Tyrod Taylor, and I think that means simply they're going after someone like a Tua or a Justin Herbert in the draft. We're not sure what's going to happen. This continues to play out. But nonetheless, we're going to get this thing figured out one step at a time. Like I said, I appreciate you guys joining us. It's been awesome here. We're having, of course, some little difficulties with Coach K right now, trying to get him queued up. When we come back, we're against a break right now. We're supposed to talk with Vic Carucci. We're going to see what happens here, see if we can get some of our kinks figured out. But nonetheless, we're going to be talking some football with you here on Talk Football with Coach K on ESPN Pensacola.
I'm attorney Stephen Luongo with Levin, Papantonio, Thomas, Mitchell, Rafferty, and Proctor in Pensacola, Florida. Distracted driving is a dangerous epidemic on America's roadways. In 2016 alone, over 3,000 people were killed in motor vehicle crashes involving distracted drivers. This according to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. For more information, please visit us today online at levinlaw.com. Please be safe on the roadways. Stop the text, stop the wrecks.
When you're looking for a great deal on a reliable new or certified pre-owned vehicle, you can't beat Bob Tyler Toyota in Car City, Pensacola. Bob Tyler Toyota has the best selection in town at incredible low prices. You can check out their amazing inventory from Camrys to Tundra trucks to 4Runners. It's all at Bob Tyler Toyota, and you can find it online at bobtylertoyota.com. Also score a touchdown this football season with the car of your dreams. Again, it's only at Bob Tyler Toyota in Car City, Pensacola.
Hello, sports fans. Miles Bentley here, General Manager at Hill Kelly Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram in Pensacola. Growing up, I always loved sports. Nothing but net, out of the park, through the uprights. Sink the puck Bentley, that was me. But my love of the game couldn't beat my love for Pensacola and helping folks get on the road of dreams in a new Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram. Sure, I never went to the big leagues in sport, but we're all pro here at Hill Kelly Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram. Proud to be in Pensacola.
Sometimes your bank, your family, and your friends love you, but they don't have the money to help you. Sometimes we have chances to make money, but the old saying, you've got to have money to make money, rings true. At Pensacola Specialty Pond, we can help. If you have trucks, heavy equipment, airplanes, boats, jet skis, anything with value, Pensacola Specialty Pond can loan you that short-term money you need. No credit checks, and at Pensacola Specialty Pond, you're going to find the money and the discretion you need.
Now at 6428 Pensacola Boulevard, north of Car City. Call 432-9050, 432-9050.
Hello, sports fans. Miles Bentley here, General Manager at Hill Kelly Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram in Pensacola. Growing up, I always loved sports. Nothing but net, out of the park, through the uprights. Sink the puck Bentley, that was me. But my love of the game couldn't beat my love for Pensacola and helping folks get on the road of dreams in a new Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram. Sure, I never went to the big leagues in sport, but we're all pro here at Hill Kelly Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram. Proud to be in Pensacola.
My favorite thing about music is it's reliable. It's always there.
It just helps me cheer up other people.
There's nothing to worry about when you do music. You're just having fun.
When I'm playing it, I'm like, wow, this is me.
And the sound just increases around you, and you just become immersed in it. You become one with it.
When you play music, you are playing life.
Whatever music means to you, just play.
Brought to you by the NAM Foundation.
There's only one name in town when it comes to afternoon local sports talk. The Sports Drive with Chad Brilliante.
Some athletes don't want to be given... nobody does. Now, look, when you play with your pops as he gets older, one of the most embarrassing things... My daughter's 3. I just slam it right in her face right at the play school hoop. Like right there, like I'm Zion Williamson.
The games, the players, the fans. ESPN Pensacola, 1330 AM, 99.1 FM.
You can watch Coach K talk football live right now on our YouTube channel at ESPN Pensacola 1330.
Welcome back to Talk Football with Coach K. JP here with you alongside former NFL coach Kay Stevenson. On this Tuesday afternoon, hope everybody is well and safe out there. Once again, I want to send a shout-out to our healthcare workers and first responders. We know that they are working tirelessly right now. Coach, I know it's a special guest for us. Vic Carucci's joining us. Of course, he covers the Bills and the NFL. He's got over 4 decades of experience as a pro football writer and a broadcaster. He's a co-host on SiriusXM NFL Radio and a Pro Football Hall of Fame selector. Coach, if I'm missing anything, I apologize, but I know he's a close friend of yours, so I'm going to let you take the reins on this one.
Vic is one of the good guys. That's for sure. So, and we just appreciate him taking the time to come on this show and talk about pro football. Vic, to start with, I want to ask you about the Big Bills trade there for Stephon Diggs, giving up a 1, a 5, and a 6 this year, and a 4 next year. Getting Stephon Diggs in a 7. What do you think?
Well, it's a lot for sure for a wide receiver. It's the kind of trade that I think kind of falls into that special category of, when you're talking about a quarterback, when you're talking about a level of difference maker that many draft picks would entail. But I look at it from a couple of perspectives.
Okay, one is the obvious need was addressed. They did need a number one receiver. They did not have one with the two who lined up in the 1 and 2 position last year, that being John Brown and Cole Beasley. They had basically numbers 2 and 3 receivers filling numbers 1 and 2 roles. So that was always going to be the mission in this offseason. However, I didn't see them spending big money like to the level of an Amari Cooper, for instance, in free agency, or an Emmanuel Sanders. I didn't see them going to that level financially or cap-wise. We did expect or anticipate that maybe the draft would be the way to go. They had owned the 22nd overall pick, and the thought would be that a number one quality receiver would be there. And quite possibly, if they didn't get one at 22, they could get one in the second round if they say went with a defensive need, an edge rusher. But this trade offered itself because Stephon Diggs, as you know, very unhappy in Minnesota, very public about not wanting to play there, very public about basically not believing in Kirk Cousins as his quarterback. So that forced the Vikings' hand to look toward the deal. And then for Buffalo's sake, by giving up what they did, and you mortgage your future when you give up that many picks, what you're saying is we get a number one a number one receiver that we know is proven with 73 catches average in the last 5 years. We give that to Josh Allen, and we believe that this 2020 season, assuming it gets to be played or whenever it starts, will be a big transformative year for the team, and they push all the chips to the middle of the table.
Well, they must really put a lot of faith in Stephon Diggs to make a big impact on the football team. I just wonder about those draft picks. You know, it's just that's an awful lot. They paid a big price.
Yeah, okay, there is no doubt they paid a big price, but it's twofold here. Faith in the impact that you think Diggs is going to have as an organization, but maybe more important than that is faith that Josh Allen takes that next step, that in year 3 for Allen in the NFL and year 2 as a full-time starter, that he makes major progress. Now, we can, use the old chicken and egg argument. While he makes progress because he'll have a guy like Diggs and his other targets, but, it's always been my belief that the quarterback has to elevate those guys around him. Right? He's got to make the improvements, right? And I know as a coach, I defer to you on that, but I would say that that also went into the thinking here, the confidence that he'd be that guy. One other thing I would add on the confidence category is how much the Brandon Beane, the general manager, and ownership believe that Sean McDermott, as a head coach, can manage the ego of a receiver who clearly put his own interests or whatever ahead of his team in Minnesota, not liking his quarterback and wanting out. Well, now you've got that guy. And the question becomes, does he suddenly turn into a guy, well, I'm happy here now. He's playing under the same contract unless the Bills change that, and to my knowledge, they haven't. And it's, by the way, a reasonably cap-friendly deal. And what happens when a young quarterback like Josh Allen maybe misfires to him as he has on some deep routes? How does Sean McDermott handle that? Apparently, the Bills' hierarchy, the management, thinks that their head coach can handle that.
Right. Well, I'm not discussing whether he can handle it or not. It's just the fact that you don't want that disruption in your clubhouse. Number one, if he doesn't like the situation in Minnesota, the way they throw the football in a dome stadium, then he's going to have some gripes in Buffalo with the weather, with a young quarterback who may not throw him the ball as much as he wants.
Right.
And, well, those are just things that I guess
Yeah,
I'm being
yeah.
a pessimist here, and I shouldn't be. But
no, but they're fair point. They're fair points, and they've been discussed. I try, like you, I try to look at everything in its totality. And I do. My bottom line conclusion on this deal was that it just puts a lot of pressure on Allen. That the organization knowingly has put that pressure. But that's what you say. You made this guy your 7th overall pick, Allen, in 2018. So you're saying, here we are in 2020, or going into that season. Let's see you step it up.
yeah, you're right about that. Well, what'd you think about the Brady to Tampa Bay deal?
Yeah. So I first of all, kudos to you. You were absolutely convinced that he was going to be moving on. The old Hank Snow song that we used to talk about with me, right?
Yeah.
That's a little inside thing, but I've never forgotten that. But anyway, he did, and I was skeptical that another team was going to make the investment in a 43-year-old quarterback, but the Buccaneers have done that. It is obviously injected all kind. My first take is what it's done to inject excitement and enthusiasm in a fan base that really needs it, and a team that needs support that it has to have, because it's been a lot of empty seats there. So this will help change that. And then the other side of it is, I think he's got those weapons that he didn't have in New England. Clearly, I think he certainly has the coach in Bruce Arians, who knows a thing or two about the passing game. Now, those are all the plus side of this thing, but I'm not going to be totally Pollyanna here. And looking at the totality, the big picture, I do wonder how it's going to unfold with a quarterback who has known only a system of high accountability, who has set the highest bar himself for his teammates and those around him, who has worked with a head coach in Bill Belichick in a program that emphasized that. And I am not saying that is not, I'm not questioning whether that's the case with Bruce Arians. I'm just saying this is a whole new deal, new teammates who he's going to learn. And he's learned his share of new teammates in New England, but in terms of a program, consistency of always being at the top of your game and putting in the hours and doing all that, that's the part that's going to be interesting to see.
Well, that's true, but I do think he's going to raise the level of play for everybody down there. And keep in mind, they don't have a bad defense. Their last 6 games, they played about as well as anybody in the league. And he's going to make them better, because he's going to keep the ball. He's going to put points on the board. He's not going to turn the ball over as nearly as much. So he's going to make them better. And he's going to make his offensive line better, because he will make better audibles, run, pass, blocking combinations, how to pick up a blitz and dogs. And so he's just going to make everybody better. There's no doubt about that. He just needs some time right now to work with those receivers.
Yes, and of course, under the circumstances, that's a great question. Now, I heard seeing some comments. He did a conference call, Brady did, with media today, I guess, yes, locally and nationally, right? And one of the things he pointed out was that technology, iPads and the such, and video conferencing or whatever, some level of technology could be involved with helping to get people through this off season, especially him, get to know playbook, get to know the plays, get to know communicate with his teammates. It's still not the same, obviously, and that's the part that you're hitting here, is how much time will he ever actually get to work with those guys? Because That's going to be vital, and not just for him. I mean, every team in the league, and we just don't know when that chance will come. So.
Well, that's true, and that's only going to help so much with the technology. You got to get out there and do it, and keep in mind now, he's like having an offensive coordinator on the field playing, and they're gonna have to utilize a lot of the fundamental offensive approach to football that Brady is accustomed to, because it's a winning philosophy, and I don't care how long they've been around over there, they probably need there's some things they could learn from Brady. So there's quite a bit to be,
Yeah, I think that would be, for me, if I'm a young teammate, and they're all younger teammates than him, of course. With him on the team, but I'd be looking forward to this. And I get a sense just hearing some of the interviews that you've seen from around the different. I think Sirius XM NFL Radio has had a player or two on from the Buccaneers and others. And I've seen their quotes, and they're basically, very excited, as they should be. Like you said, this is going to be an opportunity for them that they've never had, where their quarterback is also their coordinator.
Well, you're right. And listen, you have one of the best players to ever play the game, especially at that position. He's it should be quite an exciting future here for all those kids down at Tampa Bay, and they're going to do well.
Yeah.
Let me ask you about.
Yeah.
Let me ask you about the Tua Joe Burrow situation right now.
As I look at it, Kay, it's hard for me to think that, for instance, with Joe Burrow, I feel confident in light of just the way things have been going in Cincinnati with Duke Tobin, running things in a more aggressive way, personnel-wise, than I've seen in that organization in a long time. The moves they've made this offseason, it hasn't been their way to kind of operate that way, as we know. And they seem to be trying to make a statement with what they're doing, let their actions talk as loud as their words, to let Joe Burrow know you're going to come to us as a top overall pick, and we're going to surround you with as much as we can to succeed. And I think that's always been kind of dangling out there as a concern for him, understandably, is, am I going to a team that's going to at least try and give me the chance? And I think they go forth with that. As far as Tua is concerned, he put out that video of himself kind of throwing and moving and throwing on while he's moving to let it be seen as best he can, because again, the conditions of no pre-draft workouts, the individual stuff, you're going primarily on dated information for all these guys. I mean, at this point, whatever he'd be doing physically, you would assume is going to be different than what you would have seen a month or two ago. And I think that's a challenge for a guy like him coming off that injury, and other players, to show teams, hey, look, physically I'm making progress. You can believe me. Well, with a quarterback, how much more vital is that? Because the investment is so much greater. But I think Tua can still find himself in that top 5, maybe top 10 area of the draft.
Yeah, I agree. I think he'll find somebody's going to move up and take him. And in fact, I wouldn't be surprised if somebody didn't move up to at least the 3rd, maybe even the 2nd pick to take him. But the one thing about the 2nd pick, I know for sure they're going to take Young, and if they can't get Young, if they have to move back so that they don't have a chance to get him, they're not going to do that. But Detroit is sitting there. Their draft, trade trade all the way, and somebody could certainly get there. I think that's what they're really hoping for. And
look, there's no question. You got to factor in, a non-quarterback somewhere in the upper tier of this draft because of that great talent. And I agree with you there, Kay. And let's throw another little, I don't know if the word is a wrench, but at least part of the conversation in my mind has to also include, the development today of Carolina being on the verge of releasing or already pretty well saying goodbye to Cam Newton, because his availability is also, even though that's been expected, but you're looking at a guy that is going to, for one of these teams that has that need, and I'm thinking like a Chargers, for instance, that might be, that remember they didn't bite on any deal for him from Carolina when Carolina was offering to trade him, because they all sat back and said, "What? He's going to be he's going to be on, he's going to be a free agent. Let's just sign him that way and make our own deal." And so that'll be interesting to see how that affects draft strategy.
Yeah, I think there's some reasons, obviously, that a number of teams are skeptical of Cam Newton, and health may be one of them. But, what I hear is the Chargers are very, very high on Herbert, the quarterback out of Oregon.
Yes. No, they are. I've heard the same. And again, I think we'll see the better, the 2 or 3 QBs that are projected to be first rounders, maybe as many as 4. We'll see how that all goes. But even at that, I can, again, if you're making a deal for a guy, you got guys like Cam Newton, you got Jameis Winston, you got some players who certainly have the recognizable names who are in the open market. They'll land somewhere, of course, maybe for one or both of those guys. I'm thinking Winston, that, you come in with the idea that maybe you're going to be a backup somewhere where you once were living the life of a top overall pick, or Newton. I don't know. Again, health being a concern there, but your investment can now be mitigated by the fact that, of course, if there's a market for him, but I doubt it's going to be so strong that you have to pay crazy money to get him on your team. He's that would have, I think that's moved on. So.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Vic, who do you think has helped themselves most in the free agent market so far?
That's a good one. I guess we all said the same thing a year ago, and they made us look bad at saying it, or those of us said it. But once again, I think the Cleveland Browns have done pretty well. I really do, and I think it's going to be interesting to see how their season unfolds with a new coach now. If Kevin Stefanski, if he has the influence on them that they're hoping, Tampa Bay has to be right up there with, getting this addition of Tom Brady, and like you said, you've already got a strong defense. You may very well now have put yourself in a position where your offense can complement that and give you that ability to be competitive. So, those are a couple of teams that I probably look at right off the bat and think are going to be are going to be better. And again, with the Browns, it's the caveat that are they going to benefit from the new coach that they have in place? I'll tell you one thing I got to say while you're asking me who really did well. I'm really worried about the Houston Texans, because I don't know wow, that trade to get rid of DeAndre, that's crazy. That guy is as good a player at his position as anybody can be, and I just don't know what was what the thought was there. So
something had to be terribly wrong, because that was a bad deal. I don't care what anybody says. It's
yeah,
you just don't do that. And
yeah,
you're right about Tampa Bay, because they got the most impactful player ever that anybody could get, and he's made everybody better. Plus the fact that they now have an additional player there of that impact that didn't cost them anything. It didn't cost them a draft pick or anything. They didn't have to trade for him. He was a free agent.
Yes, and by the way, I would also add that I think in that same division with Tampa, you got to look at New Orleans and just the fact that they were able to get Drew Brees, and Drew Brees being the guy that he is, allowing for a contract that didn't that allowed them to still build around him. And by the way, Miami Dolphins, we'll see what they ultimately end up doing with their quarterback spot as well. But there's another team, I think, that made some good, solid moves, not overwhelming, but solid. And beware, I think they're pretty well coached, and with Brian Flores there and that program, we'll see where it goes.
Well, let me tell you what I hear. I hear they may make the big move up to the first pick with Cincinnati. Use some of that equity and take Joe Burrow. That's the guy they want.
Well, let me tell you something. If that happens, wow, that would be something incredible. And you want to talk about, it's hard in the sports world, I know, to find things, but we're still in where we would normally be this time of year talking draft, and the draft is going to happen on schedule, maybe not in the form that it has in recent years, but it'll still be. And if a deal like that happens, I think it would send the Tom Brady signing with the Buccaneers was a gigantic story that dominated sports. This would be every bit as big, I think, if the Dolphins end up doing that. Oh man.
Yeah. Well, listen, we have taken too much of your time, but we could go on forever talking about these things. So I'd like to have you back on around the draft, if you would, and we appreciate it very much, Vic.
It's always my pleasure, and any time with you, we longtime great friend, and again appreciate you and your family. Just want everybody there to, like we're doing here, you being smart and staying safe and healthy, and go from there. All right.
You bet. Take care, Vic, and thank you.
All right, Coach. See you. Bye-bye.
And that's Vic Carucci right there. We sure appreciate him. I know, Coach, of course, he's a close friend of yours. But remember, for those who don't know Vic Carucci, well, you ought to. He covers the Bills in the NFL. He's got over 4 decades of experience as a pro football writer and a broadcaster. Of course, co-host on SiriusXM NFL Radio and a Pro Football Hall of Fame selector. Once again, we appreciate him coming on the show with us. We are up against a break right now, but when we come back, we're going to break down. Of course, Mel Kiper releasing his mock draft 3.0. We're going to break it down for you. All that and more. We're going to have some college news for you as well, right here on Talk Football with Coach K on ESPN Pensacola.
I'm attorney Stephen Luongo with Levin, Papantonio, Thomas, Mitchell, Rafferty, and Proctor in Pensacola, Florida. Distracted driving is a dangerous epidemic on America's roadways. In 2016 alone, over 3,000 people were killed in motor vehicle crashes involving distracted drivers. This according to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. For more information, please visit us today online at levinlaw.com. Please be safe on the roadways. Stop the text, stop the wrecks.
When you're looking for a great deal on a reliable new or certified pre-owned vehicle, you can't beat Bob Tyler Toyota in Car City, Pensacola. Bob Tyler Toyota has the best selection in town at incredible low prices. You can check out their amazing inventory from Camrys to Tundra trucks to 4Runners. It's all at Bob Tyler Toyota, and you can find it online at bobtylertoyota.com. Also score a touchdown this football season with the car of your dreams. Again, it's only at Bob Tyler Toyota in Car City, Pensacola.
Locally owned Jackson Pace Pharmacy has exciting news for ED patients. Tadalafil, the FDA-approved generic for Cialis, is now here, and the cost savings are huge. Save 80% on the 20 milligram tablets, 30 tablets for $80, less than $3 a pill. A prescription from your doctor is required, so stop by Jackson Pace Pharmacy, 2256 West 9 Mile Road in Pensacola, and cash in on the savings today.
On the battlefield, there's a saying America's military men and women live by. Never leave a fallen warrior behind, ever. Off the battlefield, Wounded Warrior Project operates with the same goal. Wounded Warrior Project was created to help our men and women returning home with the scars of war, whether those scars are physical or mental. Wounded Warrior Project. We never leave a fallen warrior behind, ever. Learn more about what we do at woundedwarriorproject.org.
What if people had a battery level icon, like on your phone? You'd see a lot of us in need of a recharge. Thank goodness there's 5-Hour Energy. Because just one sugar-free, vitamin-packed 5-Hour Energy shot can get you all the way back to 100% fast. And isn't life better at 100%? 5-Hour Energy. Get back to 100%. For more information, visit 5hourenergy.com.
From First Take to your radio.
Zion, 16 games. Okay, how many games do they have left? About 20, 22 games. All right, so he ain't gonna even reach 40 games. Damn it, I mean, this first year in the NBA, which he's getting paid for, it's like a college season to do. Give a damn about no back-to-back. You're 19 years old. 19 years old. All right, figure it out.
1 to 2 weekday afternoons on ESPN Pensacola 1330 AM, 99.1 FM. This is Davis Allen from Sports Call with Davis and Justin, and you're listening to Talk Football with Coach K on ESPN Pensacola 1330 AM, 99.1 FM.
Welcome back to Talk Football with Coach K. JP here with you alongside former NFL coach Kay Stevenson. On this Tuesday afternoon, we hope everybody is safe, and if you don't have to go outside, well, don't. Spend some time with the family. But whatever you're doing, we're here talking some football with you. Coach, listen, I know, of course, Mel Kiper and Todd McShay dropping their 3.0 mock draft here. First things first, I want to talk about the video. I know Vic mentioned it as well. The video of Tua throwing for 20 seconds here, he threw once. But when you look at that, you've been an NFL coach. You've scouted guys. You've done it all, Coach. When you look at that, is that positive if you're a team that is looking and that maybe to draft him, or is that kind of, you kind of figured it at this point?
Oh, I think it was maybe positive. I have to look at it that way. But there's so much more than just that 10-second little quirk there. You got to get into it. The most important thing is your medical staff has to do whatever they have to do to give you a certainty that he's healed up and he's going to be okay, and this is not a chronic situation. Then you can go ahead and draft him. Otherwise, you're going to be hesitant.
Coach, when we look at it right now, of course, Mel Kiper will start with his mock draft here. Number 1 overall, Cincinnati Bengals and Joe Burrow. It's kind of been the story the whole entire time. Of course, I know we've heard rumors that the Miami Dolphins could possibly trade up to get him. When you look at this, Andy Dalton's still on the roster, Coach, and, there's many teams right now that they don't need a quarterback at this time. It seems that I'm not sure if Andy Dalton is going to be traded at this point. It's going to be interesting to see what happens there. But Cincinnati, they tagged A.J. Green, their wide receiver 1 right there, and they still have a really good running back in Joe Mixon. Now, we know the offensive line has had problems, but they've got their first-round pick, Jonah Williams, coming back, who missed all last season with a shoulder injury. He can step up immediately and help protect Joe Burrow's blind side. Coach, when you look at this, I know, with the draft stock and whatever it may be, if the Dolphins were to give them some draft picks here, would Cincinnati even consider, letting them take that number 1 overall pick?
Yeah, I would have to say, there's a possibility because you have to know a little bit of the inside, and that Cincinnati, when I say Cincinnati, I'm talking about Brown. loves draft picks. He just thinks that's the cat's meow. So if Miami's jumped up and gave them, let's say, they traded their 1, which would be a 5, and then one of their other number 1s and a number 2. They have 2 number 2s. That would be a boatload. That would be a boatload for that pick. And I think that might move Cincinnati. And we know that Miami would like to get Joe Burrow. Now, if Cincinnati picks, if they save it and make that pick, they've got to choose Joe Burrow, in my opinion. So I think that's where we stand with that one.
Yeah, I think for Cincinnati, it'd have to be something really good here. But Joe Burrow, Coach, I know, of course, you've said he's a guy that he checks all the boxes here. This is a guy that's been compared to Tom Brady. And it's for those people scoffing at it, I know Joe Burrow even said, listen, please don't compare me to Tom Brady. But when you look at the mechanics and everything and just the output, it's not a guy that just looks like him. He also plays like him in the way he plays the game as well. His pre-snap reads, everything top to bottom. This is a guy that's hard to miss. So it's got to be really good if you're the Bengals. But like you said, it's important, to remember they like their draft picks. Coach, I want to move on to the Washington Redskins here. Of course, Tua has been rumored to go here. Well, the Redskins signed Kyle Allen from the Panthers as well. And I think it's important because just the other day, or yesterday, I had asked you about Cam Newton going to the Redskins, and you said, I don't believe that's going to happen because then you kind of give up on the Dwayne Haskins deal. And that's true. When they bring in a guy like Kyle Allen, this is a guy that, of course, Ron Rivera coached last year. He was on the team. Kyle Allen filled in for Cam Newton while he was gone. And it's a guy that, Ron Rivera's come out and said, I don't have to worry about this guy's learning curve. I know what he's got and what he can do. He's a good young player here. And I think it fits their system with Dwayne Haskins because it doesn't upset Dwayne Haskins as of moving him out of that first spot, but it does give Washington some options here. And it also, Kyle Allen is a guy that, Ron Rivera said in the locker room, the guys like him. The guys build around him. So I think here for the Redskins, taking Chase Young number 2 seems almost, the common sense decision here, Coach.
Yeah, I think that's a given. They're going to take Chase Young at number 2.
Coach, I want to talk about, of course, number 3. This is the Detroit Lions here. This is something that it says Jeff Okudah. Of course,
trade.
That exactly. I think that's the point there is for Detroit. They're just salivating. They just want to find out what deals they're going to get. Now, number 4, this is interesting here. In some other mock drafts, we've seen them draft Mekhi Becton. Of course, the offensive lineman. We've seen them draft other offensive linemen. But here they have the New York Giants getting Isaiah Simmons, the outside linebacker out of Clemson. Now, that's not a bad pick in my mind either, Coach, because that defense needs a lot of help. Do you agree with this pick, or do you think maybe they should go offensive line here?
I think they're going to go, what I hear is they're going to go offensive tackle or DB.
And that makes sense. Those are no matter what, those are 2 needs they have right now. And Isaiah Simmons, he is a freak. Coach, number 5, Miami Dolphins. It has them going with Tua. Well, when you look at this, of course, the Dolphins could trade up to number 3 or number 2, depending on how things work out here. We've heard that Miami has some hesitation. Of course, they could trade up to number 1 and try to get Joe Burrow. But when it's all said and done, do you believe the Dolphins are going to take Tua?
If they're going to take Tua, they may move up to number 3, maybe even try to get number 2. But I don't think Washington's going to move away from the possibility to get Young.
Yeah, I think that's a good point there, Coach. And moving on here, of course, to number 6, the L.A. Chargers, Justin Herbert. Now, we heard the Chargers before. People are saying that the Chargers need to go after Cam Newton right now, but the Chargers have said we're not going to sign a veteran quarterback. I mentioned this earlier in the show, and they're going to roll with Tyrod Taylor right now, and that obviously gives us the idea, of course, from the beginning, we thought they were going to get a quarterback anyway. And Justin Herbert, it seems to be Justin Herbert. They like him a lot. They've watched the film on him. They've invited him over, things like that. And with an offensive line, they're still rebuilding. They picked up some big defensive guys like Chris Harris, of course, the cornerback, defensive tackle Linval Joseph. This is a guy in 6'6", 240, Coach. Justin Herbert checks a lot of those boxes for him.
Yes, he does, and I know that they like him, so I would have to say they take him there.
Hey, Coach, I want to go down a little bit right here. The New England Patriots at 23. This is interesting. Jordan Love, the quarterback out of Utah State. I know it's hearsay, but do you think that Belichick with having Stidham right now, that he would go ahead and draft another young quarterback?
No, I don't. I really don't. I think they're gonna take the best player available in their eyes, which would be a defensive or an offensive lineman.
Well, Coach, we're up against a break right now. When we come back, we'll talk some more about this, and also we want to talk about another XFL quarterback getting his chance to play in the National Football League. All that and more right here on Talk Football with Coach K on ESPN Pensacola.
I'm attorney Stephen Luongo with Levin, Papantonio, Thomas, Mitchell, Rafferty, and Proctor in Pensacola, Florida. Distracted driving is a dangerous epidemic on America's roadways. In 2016 alone, over 3,000 people were killed in motor vehicle crashes involving distracted drivers. This according to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. For more information, please visit us today online at levinlaw.com. Please be safe on the roadways. Stop the text, stop the wrecks.
When you're looking for a great deal on a reliable new or certified pre-owned vehicle, you can't beat Bob Tyler Toyota in Car City, Pensacola. Bob Tyler Toyota has the best selection in town at incredible low prices. You can check out their amazing inventory from Camrys to Tundra trucks to 4Runners. It's all at Bob Tyler Toyota, and you can find it online at bobtylertoyota.com. Also score a touchdown this football season with the car of your dreams. Again, it's only at Bob Tyler Toyota in Car City, Pensacola.
There's only one place in town for the lowest prices and greatest selection of firearms. Pensacola Indoor Shooting Range. Visit our fully stocked Gun Pro Shop for new and used firearms, accessories, and ammunition. Check out the Indoor Shooting Range. We offer rentals on guns, including fully automatic machine guns and silencers. Ladies, this is the safe place to learn how to use a gun. Plus, Tuesday is Ladies' Day. Women shoot for half price all day. The best place to buy firearms in Pensacola. Pensacola Indoor Shooting Range. Highway 29 in Car City.
The teams, the games, the fans, the local talk. This is ESPN Pensacola 1330 AM, 99.1 FM.
Welcome back to Talk Football with Coach K. JP here with you alongside former NFL coach Kay Stevenson on this Tuesday afternoon. Hope everybody's safe out there. We are talking some football with you. Coach, I know we got a couple minutes here. I want to go back to one, also looking at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now that Tom Brady is there with Mel Kiper's 3.0 mock draft here, it has them drafting Andrew Thomas, the big offensive tackle out of Georgia. Does that seem a no-brainer here, is to build up that offensive line, or is there another position they need to address at this point?
Well, that's a possibility. There's some people that don't rate him as highly as the other offensive tackles, but they could certainly take an offensive tackle there.
Coach, I want to move on here. When we talk about this, of course, we've seen P.J. Walker go to, the Carolina Panthers, and today Jordan Ta'amu is signing with, the Kansas City Chiefs, so it seems to be the backup there. When you look at a guy like Jordan Ta'amu, the season he had here, now we kind of figured this was going to happen. You said that, listen, there's not a guy right now that will start in the NFL, but they can work their way back in. Now we've got two of those guys. When you look at a guy like Jordan Ta'amu, do you think that – I know, of course, there's a lot of hearsay in all this. Do you think this is a guy that will have success as a backup or maybe a third-string guy, or is this more of a practice squad player?
Well, I think that's a good question. I don't know. He may not get beyond the practice squad, but he's got a chance to maybe be a backup if he gets the right playing time in this preseason. That's going to be the problem here with all these young guys and the limited time that they're going to have.
Coach, I want to go back to this too, talking about with the Redskins here and Kyle Allen signing, and they traded him for a 5th-round pick. Is that a good move for the Redskins and Ron Rivera? This is what you expected to happen, but is that a good move for them to bring in a guy like that?
Yeah, I think it's a good move. It looks to me that they're pretty well set with their quarterback position, and that just gives them the added depth that they feel like they needed.
Well, Coach, as usual, that's the sound right there that we're running out of time. We have so much to get to. Of course, we'll get to it tomorrow. But, Coach, it's been a pleasure, my friend.
You bet. I look forward to it. Maybe Danny will be with us tomorrow.
Absolutely. Danny Sheridan will join the show tomorrow here on Talk Football with Coach K. You're not going to want to miss it here on ESPN Pensacola.
This is ESPN. ESPN Pensacola 1330 AM and 99.1 FM, the only local station that talks sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. From Gulick and Wingo to the Sports Drive with Chad Brillante. Plus talk football with Coach K at noon, sports call every Saturday. If you'd like to partner with us as an advertiser or a promotional partner, just give us a call at 262-6000.
You're listening to ESPN Pensacola 1330 AM, 99.1 FM. All sports, all the time. WEBY, Milton, Pensacola.
First Take Your Take on ESPN Radio, the ESPN app, Sirius XM Channel 80, and of course on ESPN News. I'm Jason Fitz. We're presented by Progressive Insurance. We want your thoughts on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. 888-SAY-ESPN, 888-729-3776. That's how you get in on the fun that we're having and you get your take in. It's important that we get your take in it. That's why it's First Take Your Take. So as you hear things, if you have a take, you can call in. You can join us. You can also tweet me at Jason Fitz. I want to make sure that we get a couple of headlines in for you at the top so that you know that where we are right now with the big news. The Panthers are expected to release Cam Newton. That is one piece of news, possibly not shocking. Remember, Kyle Allen was just traded for a fifth-round draft pick to the Washington Redskins. Well, now we know another quarterback is on the move. As Cam Newton looks, according to sources and what they've told Adam Schefter, it looks like Cam Newton, the former NFL MVP, will be released by the Carolina Panthers. Remember, they came to a deal with Teddy Bridgewater on 3 years, $63 million. So I don't think this is a shocking move to many. The other big piece of news right now that's sort of dominating the sports landscape, the Tokyo Olympics officially postponed until 2021. Yesterday, we addressed the fact that there was at least the rumor of postponement being out there. We didn't have anything confirmed. Now we know. Never before had the Olympic Games been postponed or canceled for something other than war, but at this point, for the first time, we are having that. The opening ceremony had been planned for July 24th. We now know instead that the postponement will take us to 2021. So the Olympics will not be happening this year, but they are not gone altogether. Importantly, they will happen next year. We've let you hear some first take. We're letting you get your take in on it. 888-SAY-ESPN, 888-729-3776. Your take on the Olympic postponement. You can also tweet me at Jason Fitz. But I want to continue to get some expertise on it, because as much as we could talk about what it means and the timing of it, last time I checked, I'm not an Olympian. So we're now going to turn to one that joins us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. 2016 Olympic gold medalist, shot putter Ryan Krauser is there with us. Ryan, we appreciate your time. What was your reaction to the news that the Olympics have been postponed for a year?
Yeah, Jason, for me, the biggest thing was just don't cancel it. It's been kind of a whirlwind of a couple weeks for all the Olympians, especially this last week with some of the federations like Canada and Australia putting pressure on, saying that they would pull their athletes, which could end up in being almost the worst case scenario, is that you have an Olympics of a skeleton number of countries and not having all the athletes compete. So happy in the sense that it's still on, although for next year, and I think it'll be a much more even playing field because you have a couple select countries training almost business as usual. You've got people out in California that aren't leaving their house. I've seen people doing lunges in their living room. And then for me, I've been throwing a shot put out in a grass field by myself. So doing what we can, but I think it'll be a lot more level playing field here in 2021.
Ryan, I can only imagine your neighbors when they see the shot put just flying through the air. So talk to me a little bit about how you have been training. I mean, you just said you're in your backyard throwing. What else are you doing to sort of keep ready, and how does the postponement now affect your training?
Yeah, so it's, for me, throwing where I can, and just lifting in the garage has been the main thing. It's been a little bit difficult just because for me and all the shot putters in general, we're big, strong, power athletes. So it's a little bit unrealistic to try to work up to a mid 500-pound bench or a 700-pound squat in your garage. So kind of doing what I can with a little bit lighter weights. Just have mostly a barbell and a rack, and doing some Olympic lifting, some lighter squats, and really just trying to maintain the fitness that I felt like I developed building a big training block and foundation to be able to carry me through the Olympic year.
We're talking to 2016 Olympic gold medalist, shot putter Ryan Krauser on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. First take, your take on ESPN Radio and ESPN News. I'm Jason Fitz. You mentioned Some of the other federations had already come out, Canada and Australia. We talked a little bit about that yesterday. How much, if any, conversation has there been between the American Federation and the athletes, particularly when it came to how we stood on this?
Yeah, so it's always a little bit difficult when you look at track and field and a lot of the Olympic sports because they're a little bit more fragmented than, say, the NBA or NFL, where you have a well-oiled machine in terms of the players' union. So we've had kind of USATF, my federation, USA Track and Field, and the U.S. Olympic Committee, I feel like have done a pretty good job listening to the athletes. We had pretty much a virtual town hall meeting through almost through Skype. And then, so it's the biggest thing